These are two groundbreaking blades. They are the Camillus produced Becker brand survival knives. The one in the foreground, this bad boy, is the Becker BK9. This one in the back here is the BK7. What made them groundbreaking? Well, most of all, their price. That they came out on the street for around $50. This one I believe was $57. This one was around $47, what I paid for them. Now, sadly, I kind of use the past tense on these because they're no longer being produced. Because their parent corporation, Camillus in New York, is defunct. They're out of business and have been for a while now. Will they crank back up and maybe one day the Becker brand and these BK knives resume production? It's hard to say. You might find these on the secondary market. Maybe someone you know has one. There might be a few places out there online that are selling them that may have some inventory, maybe on the forums. But as you'll see, there's a lot to recommend about these knives. At least at their $50 price point, they are amazing values. There's so many good features about the Becker. I'm going to try to squeeze it in 10 minutes along with my wilderness / survival knife philosophy, which I generally do as well. We're going to start with the big brother, the BK9, and this of course is a large bladed survival knife. Now, like I've said in some of my other videos, I generally prefer these larger blades. It's because they're much more capable in woodcraft in the woods. I can split bigger logs, it minimizes my work, they swing better, they chop better, they're just more effective. Now, of course, the downside to that is they're heavier. This one weighs out at 24.5 ounces with its sheath, which I'll show you here in a sec. So it's not a lightweight, it's a chunk of metal. The little brother, the BK7, and the numbers, by the way, stand for the length of blade. BK9, 9-inch blade. BK7, about a 7-inch blade. But this one weighs about 18 ounces, 17.7 ounces, and that's with the sheath. So this one is not a lightweight, but like I say, some scenarios where you know you're going to be doing woodscraft in a survival situation, if you can just take the weight, it's nice to have this bigger blade, and I prefer it. Now let's start with the blade. How wide is it? Well, just about a 1/4 inch wide. About the same width as, and I want to make sure I'm telling you right on that, it's about the same width as a Trailmaster / Recon Scout. And I think it's just under a 1/4 inch actually. Not quite a 1/4 inch. And that's correct, I remember now. So I like those 1/4 inch blades for my wilderness blades, and that's because they have that wedge capability to blast through the wood. But this is pretty darn close. I remember in my woodscraft with this blade versus a Trailmaster, I do believe the Trailmaster beat it in splitting capability just a little bit, and this gets to the grind. And again, I'm always learning, I'm always changing, but if I remember correctly, this blade, when I've used it and others like it, I have had it in the winter time when I had the log that had water on the exterior, i.e. it's a frozen chunk of wood. I've had this flat portion jam real nicely in the log. But that's fairly rare, and if I keep it lubricated with WD-40, it does pretty darn good. The grind, therefore, is not a full flat grind, but it's pretty close. It's about a 3/4, maybe 7/8 grind, and that's where they start coming down to the edge, right about there on the upper portion of the spine. Unsharpened swedge here, and that's fine for my survival knife. Generally, I don't want those unless I want more of a fighting capability with it. And yes, I have reprofiled this edge. As it came from Becker, I was not happy with it, and so I backed that relief cut up and made it much more sharp. This is not a 1095 steel. I think the steel they use is called 0170, and I don't know the specifics on it. I think it's very comparable to a 1095, also a carbon 5 steel from Cold Steel. I do know this though, excuse me, it performs very well in the out of doors, and it holds an edge very well. When I talk about my experience of 1095 steels, I kind of lump this knife in there along with it just because it holds an edge so well. It's not stainless, and this exposed relief cut and anything that's exposed and not coated in black is going to rust on you, so you got to be careful. So, but as it is now, with that nice shallow grind on it, it splits like a mofo. It's a really good splitting, good hacking knife. I might do a demo of cutting a tree down with this later on, but the BK9 is very capable. Don't get me wrong, it splits wood really good. I've just had it bind on me a couple times in wintertime ops. Let's talk about the handle. Both handles on these knives are going to be the same. It's going to be a thermoplastic bolted to the slab of steel on both sides, and the nice thing is they didn't rivet it. They made it so you can take it off. And why do I say that's important? Well, in case we ever got salt water back there, and I know I say that a lot, but salt water is extremely corrosive. If you get it in a trapped location against a non-stainless blade, heck, even a stainless blade, it's going to rust on you. So it's always nice to be able to take that handle off and clean underneath it. The handle itself is very comfortable. It has flares on both the butt and the choil area, so it's very nice, both with and without gloves. I like it. Now, any exposed tang knife like the Becker is not as comfortable to baton with as perhaps a craton handle like the Trailmaster, because sometimes you can feel that shock coming through that blade, but it's not substantial, but I've noticed it. It has an exposed tang here. You could use that as an impact device. It's not a flattened hammering area, but you know what? Not too bad, and in a pinch we could smack something pretty nice with it. It's actually got a nice point on there. Big lanyard hole if we needed it. I always put a lanyard on it in the snow. Not always, but generally. How about that thumb ramp? That's kind of cool. The thumb ramp here doesn't have really pronounced jimping on it, but it's not bad. It's not too shabby. My hand does slip on it, but I'd rather have a thumb ramp than nothing at all. Now, some scrapyard knives along the lines of the Becker, there's one that they have kind of a blade catch up on top. I like that. That's cool. And I wish the Beckers had that, just so it would double for maybe better defensive use in case a blade came down here. Pretty rare that would ever happen, but if given choice, I'll take it. This choil kind of comes down, protects your hand from ingress to the forward blade area. Not too bad. The overall feel again is really nice. So let's look at the BK7. Actually, before we do that, let's look at the sheath on the BK9, because there's lots to talk about. Now, this was their earlier sheath. This is a Kydex sheath, I believe, and it's very nicely executed. It might be plastic, I'm not sure. It looks to be actually Kydex. And for a $57 knife, that is amazing. I think later models dispensed with that because it cost them too much, and they started just doing this cheesy nylon sheath, which I pretty much hate. But the Kydex sheath is nice. Notice when I slide the blade in, nice positive snap. Every survival knife should have a plastic or Kydex sheath, really. They should. They're just awesome. It's lightweight, doesn't retain water. Very nice. The back of the sheath, a bad thing of the sheath is it doesn't have a quick attachment capability like you've seen on the Recon Scout and the Trailmaster. Actually, the Recon Scout. Look at that video. I show how it's a fold-over Velcro arrangement that you can put on your belt. Now, when I got this knife, this whole portion here was a loop, and the belt I had was about, I don't know, 3 fingers, 2.5 fingers wide, and it was sliding all over the place. On the rare occasions I carried it, what I did is I just stitched it with some carpet tape right along through here, and that narrowed that loop, and that minimizes the migration on your belt. You can do that too. Real easy fix. Nice sheath though. Has kind of an unneeded leg attachment. I've never used that. That's the Kydex sheath. Now to the BK7. It's the little brother, about 18 ounces. This is a good day hiking knife, or a knife, just a general all-around blade. As we've demonstrated in the woods, a 7-inch blade is very capable in both wilderness craft and shelter making and fire making is what I'm saying. Same thing, same nice handle. Yeah, I changed the grind on this one. Same thickness of blade. It's the same knife as a BK9, just a little bit shorter. And because it's shorter, it's not going to hack quite as well. And it's going to be unable to split those really big logs. We're going to have to go on the edge of it. The sheath that it came with pretty much sucks. It's a nylon sheath with a plastic insert for blade protection, retention snap, and an unneeded stone holder here for sharpening. But that's a BK7. Sadly, these knives are now gone. I'm really bummed about it. You might see them somewhere around online. If you do, they still are outstanding blades. This is the Becker line of survival blades. High value, high performance.